SLT Fibre and experience the power of fibre technology. Sri Lanka's only super fast internet connection. SLT Fibre. Call 1212 now.
Tonight, high hopes. 5 chief northern political parties agree on a list of 13 demands as conditions for presidential election support. Collision course. Gotabaya Rajapaksa adopts tough stance on Geneva resolutions.
I can't recognize what they have signed with the different government.
The stance isn't much different with foreign pacs.
Who wants to negotiate has to start with me as a president.
Hope on the horizon. The central bank's monthly external sector report presents a mixed bag for the month of August. Locked out. Ex-president of Sri Lanka cricket THILANGA SUMATHIPALA banned from holding any position in Sri Lanka cricket. All these stories and much more coming our way on First at 9 this Tuesday, the 15th of October 2019.
Fair and Lovely men ගෑවට පස්සේ මාක්ස් අඩු වෙලා ෆෑනස් වැඩි වෙලා.
මාක්ස් අඩු කරලා ඔයාගේ ෆෑනස් ස්ටෑන්ඩඩ් එක වැඩි කරගන්න. Fair and Lovely men anti marks cream.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Well, a very good evening to you and welcome to First at 9 AdaDerana 24, Sri Lanka's news channel. I'm Katharina Chang. Now, there could be a completely new approach to the resolution Sri Lanka co-sponsored under the current government in Geneva if former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa is elected to the President's office. The presidential candidate of the Sri Lanka Polujana Peramuna today refused to recognise any agreement on the resolutions the government may have in place, adding that his stance on the matter is in complete contrast to that of the present regime. Responding to both local and foreign journalists at a media briefing, the former Defence Secretary addressed a wide range of concerns, insisting that any government wishing to enter into pacs will have to make them up with him.
Sri Lanka as a state has given some commitments to the United Nations Human Rights Council in 2015. Should you get elected to office, what will be your stand and how do you want to proceed with that commitment?
I can't recognize what they have signed with the different government. It's not with my government. In my personal view, that is not a legal document. But always we will work with the United Nations Human Rights Organization as well. On this issue, our policies and the present government policies are far apart.
And on the question of 35(1) of the Human Rights Council, how do you propose to proceed if you are going to abrogate what has already been signed? How are you going to proceed on this question of accountability, the alleged war crimes?
Even during our government, we had proposed a system and we have continued on that process. And when this government came into power, they completely neglected that process and went through a new process. We will continue the process that we have started under the Mahinda Rajapaksa government. We did a lot of things during our period.
Or specifically on accountability, what is it that you had started before?
Under the Census Department, we did a survey on that and we have found out the number of people missing, found the correct numbers, but we produced a document on that. Unfortunately, foreign investigators, without even coming, produced their own reports, their own numbers. We are an independent country. We have our institutions where we can follow without foreign appointed people, without even coming, producing documents.
The present government itself has stated categorically that some of the commitments given to the Human Rights Council are contrary to Sri Lanka's constitution. That has been the official position of the present government of Sri Lanka. Now, no government, either the present government or a future government, can take actions which are in direct conflict with the highest law of the land. We are all bound by it.
The people of the northern and eastern, they have more important issues They need jobs, they need to develop their areas, they need education. We have to move forward.
There are some unresolved questions that people of the North and East highlight, even as they highlight jobs and education. They are asking what happened to the people who surrendered to the army. Since you were leading the army at that time.
You are mistaken, I think I was not leading the army.
Okay, your brother was?
No, not. There was a command army. Army was led by army commander. Surrendered to the army, 13,784, I think exactly. And they were rehabilitated and reintegrated with the society. And not only that, they were given employment in civil defense force, and some were recruited into the military. Even the foreign observers who came to monitor rehabilitation program commended our program. And we never kept them in custody. According to their involvement in terrorist movement, some were given 6-month rehabilitation, some were given 1 year, some were given maximum 2 years rehabilitation program.
Does that mean that there are no missing persons that is said in...
Missing person and people who surrendered to the military are two different places. Okay. Do you know that there are more than 2,000 officers and soldiers missing in the military? There are certain instances where we couldn't recover our own bodies. I have seen myself, fighting was so high. During conflict period, that can happen.
But some families in the north say that the ones that surrendered are not part of the 13,000 odd people who were rehabilitated and that they haven't come back.
Somebody can say that. That's only allegation. We have inquired on this. We had a commission on this.
What are your plans where development is concerned? What are your plans where FDIs are concerned? And what is going to be your foreign policy?
The center of gravity of economic development is moving towards Asia. Especially if you take the Asian countries, they were developed based on technology. So this is the area that we want to move forward. That is why I have always spoken and I have said that we have to invest more on education, targeting on this economic development in short. Your question on geopolitics, I think we have to be a neutral country. That we were a non-aligned country, but under the present status, we have to be very realistic.
What is your philosophy behind reconciliation of the Tamils into Sri Lankan society?
We must give every citizen in this country the opportunity to live in dignity. Give them the education, give them the opportunity to get decent employment, good living. These are the things that we have to develop, irrespective of the region, irrespective of the ethnicity. We are the people who released 90% of the land. Just imagine the Jaffna Peninsula. It was like a camp. Earlier, the LTT was occupying this land. And then in 98, when the military cleared, then the military was occupying the land. If you take the peninsula, we have released more than 90% of the land to the owners. Nobody talks about it.
What will be your position about the agreements Sri Lanka has signed and is planning to sign with the United States? I'm referring to the AXA and the SOFA, because I don't see how these agreements can keep us in a non-aligned or neutral position.
The agreement which we signed was a different one. It went on for 10 years. The benefit was for us, not for them. But the present agreement, I don't think they have signed it. It's a different matter. I will not do anything to harm our sovereignty of the country.
SOFA is under negotiation by the present government. How will you take that?
Any government who wants to negotiate has to start with me as a president.
In the meantime, SLPP's presidential candidate also assures that he will reclaim all state resources that were sold to foreign nations when he comes to power. Speaking at a forum this evening, Gotabaya Rajapaksa went on to say that his policies will ensure that the country's sovereignty is protected at all costs. A forum which saw the participation of religious leaders, artists and members from the academia was held this evening under the auspices of SLPP presidential candidate Gotabaya Rajapaksa and opposition leader Mahinda Rajapaksa.
We know that a part of our country was sold off to a foreign nation. If we have to counterbalance this transaction by selling another part of the country to another and allowing this cycle to continue, we will lose our sovereignty. We have a policy that ensures our country moves forward, putting the nation's sovereignty at the forefront. This government has started to sell our state resources to foreign nations. We must protect our resources and get back what is ours.
Meanwhile, a public rally organised by the SPP was held in Warriapula yesterday.
We have a clear plan to build our economy, and we have a team capable of doing this. I pledge that I will make this a self-sufficient nation and provide you a better standard of living in the future. This government said that they will give you Volkswagen vehicles. These are the lies they continue to say. The city of Colombo, meanwhile, reeks with the stench of garbage. They say that they are engaged in a land reclamation project in Colombo. This was initiated by myself and the Chinese president. But they removed the foundation stone and put up a sign saying that this project is the work of the Iron Man. It does not matter what they say, because people know that we launched this project.
Presidential candidate of the New Democratic Front, Sajid Premadasa, says that he is not a political puppet that is controlled by anyone. He expressed these views at a public rally organised in Derana today. A public rally organised by the New Democratic Front was worked off in Ratnapura last evening under the auspices of its presidential candidate, Minister Sajid Premadasa. The rally also saw the participation of representatives from the Tamil Progressive Alliance. NDF's presidential hopeful later participated in another rally organised in Ahaliyagoda. In the meantime, today, Minister Sajid Premadasa attended a public rally organised in Derana.
I wish to tell you that I am nobody's political puppet in this election campaign. I am not a slave candidate that is controlled by anyone or who works under anyone. When the citizens elect me to become the president of this country, there will be no one who can control me. The only people who can control and govern me are the people. I am not perfect, and there may be times I make mistakes. But if I do wrong to anyone, I have the backbone to come forward and seek forgiveness. I am not pompous, but what I do possess is the same heartbeat and pulse of the people.
Election monitoring body PAFRL has received 63 complaints so far with regard to election law violations. Addressing a media briefing today, its Executive Director Rohan Hettiarachchi said that most of these complaints were in relation to misuse of state resources and power.
We have reported 63 complaints up to now. The biggest complaints so far we have received misuse the government resources and the government power. Most of the time we have reported giving the job opportunities in the government ministries as well as the provincial level. A lot of development program is taking place during the elections campaigning period, and also the welfare scheme is introduced by especially the Samurdhi authority, and we have reported to the Elections Commission and we send the letter to the Director General. And also, this is the first time in Sri Lankan history 35 candidates are contesting the presidential elections. The last time there were about 19 candidates. Out of the 19, the 17 candidates altogether get only 138 votes. That is less than 2%. So this is really misusing the democratic practice by this political party. And also, most of them are contesting for their personal benefits. And according to the Elections Commission, we know that there are 100 millions, the extra money the Elections Commission has to have for extra ballot boxes and the extra officials. And also the ballot paper is going to be more than 26 inch in this time. Immediately after the elections, we will consult the Elections Commission. We will bring some legal framework to control this unnecessary candidate in the coming elections.
Well, we have more news from the political area right here on First at 9. Stay tuned. 10 MP Sumandiran stated today that he is committed to the rejection of a unitary state model. He made these comments following discussions on a list of 13 demands to be presented to the two main presidential contenders held between leaders of the 5 main northern political parties and representatives of the University of Jaffna Students' Union. Following the discussion, the 5 main northern provincial political parties unanimously endorsed the 13 demands, which will form the basis of the party's support for either of the 2 main contenders at the election on the 16th of November.
Discussions were held in Jaffna between leaders of the 5 main political parties and University of Jaffna Students' Union representatives on a list of demands to be submitted to main presidential contenders. The 13 demands agreed at the discussions will form the foundation for the party's support for one of the 2 frontrunners in the upcoming presidential election. The first demand on the list is a new constitution guaranteeing a merger of North and East and devolution of power, followed by an international investigation into alleged war crimes and prosecution of the accused. Removal of the Prevention of Terrorism Act and the unconditional release of Tamil political prisoners, as well as an international investigation into missing persons, are also on the list. They also demand the release of all land held by military in the North and East, along with a halt to the establishment of Sinhala Buddhist villages in the North and East and removal of existing villages. Suspension and removal of Sinhala Buddhist villages established under the MAHAWELI development project and removal of Sinhala colonies established in the Vanni district under the Moragahakanda Dam project are also among the 13 demands. The parties also call for the release of traditional Tamil culture sites held under the Department of Archaeology and the Department of Wildlife Conservation. A resolution to unemployment issues in the North and East is another demand on the list, while they also want preference given to Northern and Eastern unemployed youth in allocation of state employment. Last but not least is the designation of lands affected by the conflict with development planned and implemented by people's committees. The document will now be handed over to Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna candidate Gotabaya Rajapaksa and New Democratic Front candidate Sajith Premadasa as conditions for support at the elections. Tamil People's Alliance leader C.V. Vigneshwaran, ITAC leader Mave Senadiraja, ITAC MP M.A. Sumandiran, Tello leader Selvam Adekalanathan, EPRLF leader Suresh Premachandran, and PLOTE leader Dharmalingam Siddharthan added their signatures to the document, thereby legitimising the demands. All Ceylon Tamil Congress leader Gajendra Kumar Ponnambalam abstained from endorsing the document, stating that the Tamil people cannot be deceived by the demands.
You all look like you're waiting for the bride and groom to appear. There is nothing to ask. Everything has been signed. I signed, Mave signed, and Selvam is signing it now. Our demands clearly state that we will reject a unitary state solution. Everything is very clear. We won't agree to a unitary state. We are very clear on that point.
The Court of Appeal today published its reasoning for the rejection of the petition challenging the granting of dual citizenship to Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna presidential candidate filed by Gamini Viyangoda and Professor Chandragupta Tenuvara. The petition claimed that the dual citizenship certificate signed by then President Mahinda Rajapaksa was illegal on the basis that the executive president's principal duty upon assuming office is to appoint a prime minister and cabinet. The petition also argued that given the lack of a sitting cabinet minister overlooking the granting of dual citizenship, the president lacked the authority to approve such a document.
The Court of Appeal today published its reasoning for declaring the petition filed by Gamini Viyangoda and Professor Chandragupta Tenuvara challenging the legality of the dual citizenship certificate granted to former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The court ruled that the Sinhala text of the Constitution indicates clearly that the Constitution had conferred a duty to the President to be in charge of the subjects and functions not assigned to ministers. Thus, during the intervening period of a few days between the new President having assumed office and his having appointed the Cabinet of Ministers and assigned subjects and functions to such ministers provided by the Constitution, it was the view of the Court that the Constitution had conferred a duty on the President to be in charge of all such subjects and functions not assigned to any minister. The Court further opined that a holistic reading of Article 44 of the Constitution makes it clear that the provision would be applicable whenever the President assigns a subject or function to himself when the subject or function is not assigned to a minister, and that no opinion is expressed on the time that can be taken to appoint a cabinet of ministers. Given these circumstances, it was the view of the Court that the President at the time, as the repository of the executive power of the people, had the legal authority in terms of the Constitution to sign the P13 dual citizenship certificate on the 21st of November 2005, rendering considering the argument of the petitioners a nullity and without a legal basis. The court also accepted the argument of the Respondents' Counsel that the application was filed for collateral purposes and not a genuine public interest litigation filed by the petitioners as public-spirited citizens concerned to see that the law is obeyed in the interest of all.
A special High Court today decided to take up the trial of D.A. Rajapaksa Museum case on the 9th of January. This decision was taken over the stay order issued by the Supreme Court on the permanent High Court at Bar, preventing the trial. The Attorney General's Department pointed out that the Supreme Court had issued a stay order on the case until the 10th of December. Legal counsel appearing on behalf of Gotabaya Rajapaksa told the court that the Supreme Court had extended the stay order until the 20th of December and requested the court to set a date for the hearing of the case after the 20th of December. On to other local news, the Ministry of Megapolis and Western Development has decided to discontinue accepting solid waste from the Colombo Municipal Council to the ARUWAKKALU Sanitary Landfill. In a letter addressed to the Commissioner of the CMC, the Ministry stated that accepting CMC waste will be discontinued with effect from the 16th of this month. This decision was arrived at following a statement made by Mayoress of Colombo, Rosie Senanayake, to a local newspaper on the ARUWAKKALU Sanitary Landfill. According to the letter, Senanayake had stated that ARUWAKKALU is a failed project and that they have not been able to deliver what they promised. But all those ministers started taking ransom from me. Commenting on her statement, the Ministry of Megapolis stated that the ministry has taken every measure to resolve the solid waste disposal issue, complying with all rules, regulations and environmental guidelines. The ministry pointed out that the only solution for the Colombo waste disposal issue is the partially completed ARUWAKKALU Sanitary Landfill, as the Kerawalapitiya site has reached its capacity. The letter further reads that the statement made by Mayoress Senanayake is, quote, very disturbing and implies that the Colombo Municipal Council is capable of finding a better solution for dumping their waste, unquote. Therefore, the ministry stated that they will discontinue accepting municipal solid waste to the partially completed ARUWAKKALU Sanitary Landfill with effect from tomorrow. On to business news now. The central bank's monthly external sector report compiled by the Economic Research Department presented a mixed bag of results for the month of August. Chief among the positives was an increase in tourist arrivals for August of 24.1%, heading into peak season, marking a welcome respite for the industry that is still reeling from the after effects of the Easter Sunday terror attacks.
The central bank's monthly external sector report was released yesterday, highlighting a miscellany of highs and lows for August economic performance. Although the country's trade deficit showed a contraction due to a decline in imports, exports showed signs of recovery compared to the month of June, while export earnings declined fractionally by 0.4% year-on-year, mainly due to the lower prices of major export categories. The trade deficit fell to $540 million in August 2019, compared to the deficit of $717 million recorded in July this year. In a promising sign for the struggling tourism industry, August tourist arrivals rose to 143,587 from 115,701 in July. This still, however, constitutes a year-on-year decline of 23.8%, with reductions from key destinations such as China, the United Kingdom, France and Germany contributing. This brought the total August tourism earnings to $270 million compared to $376 million in August in 2018. The report also showed the Sri Lankan rupee appreciating by 1.1% against the US dollar during the year up to 14th of October 2019 against other major currencies except for the Japanese yen and the Canadian dollar during this period. Additionally, workers' remittance declined by 3% year-on-year to $518 million, recording a cumulative decline of 7.6% in the first 8 months of the year over the corresponding period. The country's gross official reserves stood at $8.5 billion by the end of August 2019 and equivalent to 5 months of imports. Foreign investments in government securities recorded a net outflow of $156 million in August 2019, and on a cumulative basis, net outflows from the government securities market amounted to $285 million during the first 8 months of the year.
Stocks ended weaker today, snapping a run of 7 straight sessions, gaining sessions to slip from a near 6-week high in the previous session as investors booked profits. The Asia Price Index ended 0.5% weaker at 5,840.48. Foreign investors continued selling for the 10th straight session, selling a net 79.9 million rupees worth of shares, extending the year-to-date net foreign outflow to 4.03 billion rupees of equities. Here's a look at how the market performed during the day.
In the bond market, the secondary market yield curve shifted downwards while overall market witnessed moderate volumes. In the equity market, bourse ended in red, reversing the positive sentiment witnessed for the last 7 trading sessions on the price losses made by LOLC and distilleries. ASPI witnessed a downtrend during the day, reaching an intraday low of 5831 and slightly recovered prior to closing at 5840. Losing 30 points. Turnover recorded near 1-week low, while 30% of turnover derived from dialogue. Foreigners continued with net sellers amidst high foreign participation.
Now going to a short commercial break. Stay tuned. United States has imposed sanctions on Turkey, demanded Turkey to stop its military incursion in Syria. Vice President Mike Pence said that his president had spoken to Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan and asked for an immediate ceasefire. With lawmakers in the US Congress moving to impose sanctions of their own, Trump issued an executive order authorizing sanctions against current and former officials of the Turkish government for contributing to Turkey's military operation in northern Syria.
President Erdogan reached out and requested the call, and President Trump communicated to him very clearly that the United States of America wants Turkey to stop the invasion, to implement an immediate ceasefire, and to begin to negotiate with Kurdish forces in Syria to bring an end to the violence. Well, the United States of America did not give a green light to Turkey to invade Syria. He said from the time he was a candidate and forward that he wanted to bring an end to endless wars and opportunities for us to bring troops home. But that didn't mean that this president in any way encourages violence anywhere in the world, let alone along the border between Turkey and Syria.
So effective immediately, we have sanctioned 3 of the ministers, the Minister of Defense, the Minister of Interior, and the Minister of Energy. We have also sanctioned the Department of Defense and the Ministry of Energy. As we've warned all along, our desire is not to shut down the Turkish economy. Our desire is to see an appropriate response. These sanctions will be very severe on the Turkish economy. We can continue to ramp up these sanctions. So we were very clear in warning the government of the sanctions.
Ex-Sri Lanka cricket president THILANGA SUMATHIPALA has been banned from holding office in the cricketing administration following a directive from Sports Minister Harin Fernando. The directive was based on the findings and recommendations made by the committee appointed by the Minister of Sports. In a letter, Minister Fernando communicates to Sri Lanka Cricket that MP SUMATHIPALA be excluded or prevented from participating, sitting or voting in any meeting of any committee, exercise, discharge and perform any powers, functions and duties as an office bearer or immediate past president, or from participating and representing the local cricket governing body. And with that, we end this edition of First at 9. Thank you for joining us and have a pleasant evening.